Recording started.
Okay. This is the CSS Operations and Oversight meeting convening on November 4th, 2020 at 2:35 p.m. Committee members present: Janine Frank, Bill Cottle, Jamie Johnson, Judy McKinney-Cherry, Joanne Fracangelo, Bruce Boughton, Margaret Lawrence, AJ Kirchner. Staff: Melissa Johnson, Rayanne Widmer Mason, Keith Guthrie, Shelley Madden, Phyllis Ballier, and guest Sally Rizzu. Okay, Judy, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that, Phyllis. And so, Dan's not joining us today due to a family need. So the first thing we'll do is call the meeting to order. And just had our attendance and roll call, so I appreciate that. I'm going to ask if there's anyone who has a conflict of interest that they need to disclose based on what they see on the agenda. Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to the minutes. So what we are doing is approving the minutes. Actually, I beg your pardon, these minutes were actually approved at the latest meeting. So we have the minutes that are in front of you from September the 2nd. I will ask if there was any need to make any modifications to those minutes. Okay. All right. Moving on, we'll go right to the youth program and the youth program update.
Okay.
I'm going to unmute myself. Okay. Good afternoon, everybody, and thank you for giving me a few minutes to update you on what we're doing in the youth program. Now, we did, miss the September meeting, and I understand that everything has been approved, but I will say that just really briefly, in the month of September, we were up to 24 enrollments. Out of the 75, 9 work experiences out of the required 19, 5 individuals in ITAs and 1 individual in a non-ITA or non-traditional training, and that we had 4 new work experiences for the month of September. So on to this month. Again, the requirements are 75 new enrollments for PY20. To date, 31 have been enrolled. 19 work experience-based trainings. To date, 12 have been engaged in new work experience-based trainings. 11 currently active. Unfortunately, since the writing of this report, one of those has had to withdraw due to health concerns unrelated to COVID. Emerging workforce will target 12 training opportunities. To date, 8 individuals have been approved for or enrolled in ITA, and 1 individual has started the alternative training. That's the same one as September, and that is in child care. To break that down just a little bit, our work experiences, right now we have 4 in child care. That's 2 different child care agencies. One of them is the one that's involved in that training, and she is going into a management training to go into a management position in a daycare facility. We have one that's in glass art in Corning, and that's something I think is kind of exciting. It's something that you wouldn't be able to say in every area, in every WIB, but since we have Corning, an individual in a glass art work experience-based training, does have some labor market value, and she's learning some really neat stuff. Not only how to do how to create the pieces, glass art jewelry, glass art ornaments, but she's learning some really, really high-end customer service, where once she gets these techniques down, learns how to do the stuff herself, she's training the customers how to do them with hands-on art, and I think that's fantastic. We have 1 individual in a human services / clerical position. That's at Chemung County Department of Social Services. Uh, we have an individual. We have an individual who's in a human services
Back?
position.
Okay,
Pardon me?
sorry.
Is that for me?
No, we lost Judy for a minute, but she's back.
Oh, okay.
Oh.
We have an individual in human services in the Canisteo area. Unfortunately, that's the one who had to pause for health concerns. We have an individual in a plumbing work-based training. We have an individual in a bookkeeping work experience-based training, one individual in the Department of Public Works down in Canisteo, New York, and one hairstylist. So it represents a pretty diverse group of work experience-based training, and I'm happy with that. Our ITAs, we have one. Our non-ITA, the trainings, we have the one in childcare, we have one in nursing, we have 4 in the barbering field, 3 in cosmetology. Unfortunately, one of those withdrew. We are looking to diversify that quite a bit more. For the month of October, we had 18 referrals, 5 enrollments. It says 18 up here. 2 of those individuals are actually referrals. They're people we reached out to in the past that we couldn't make contact with. So I didn't count them down here in the graphs because they were referred earlier. We moved them to closed and now they're re-referred. So that's the discrepancy there. 18 referrals, 5 enrollments, and then the graphs refer to 15 referrals. So that's, if you look down here, I'm comparing. Could you go back up just a little bit, Phyllis?
Yeah.
Right there. Yep.
Okay.
So I've got this tiny little laptop screen, so I'm also looking at my printed report here. So if you see me leaning in like that, that's what I'm trying to do, is look at both of them. We're in the first month of the second quarter for PY20. So if you just look at the Q2 numbers, I don't think that tells much of a story to compare it to last program year. So I'm going to jump back again to September at the end of Q1 and comparing Hornell Q1 PY20 with Hornell Q1. And this is the source of the referrals, the Career Center area that the referrals come from. Where we were at 12 at Q1 for PY19, we're at 12 at Q1 for PY20. I think that's pretty good in the throes of a global pandemic. For Bath, we were at 17, the end of Q1 at PY20. Q1 in PY19, we were at 7, 10 in Montour Falls as compared to 2, 26 as compared to 16 for Elmira, 10 as compared to 2 for Corning, and 75 totals compared to 39 total. So I'm not unhappy with our referrals. I will say that something that bumped that up is last month we got a large number of referrals from Steuben County DSS. We're always happy to take referrals from any source. DSS is awesome, and I'm glad that they sent us those. Unfortunately, there was a significant number of those, or 5 of those referrals we had no contact information for, and there were 3 of those individuals that were referred that had already been involved with our program and had either exited due to lack of activity or had exited due to simply stating that they did not want to be involved with the program. It did give us a bump in referrals. It didn't really give us a bump in enrollments. So I've added, if we can go down now, Phyllis, please, to the little pie charts. I had the referral sources here, and I kept this graph just because I'd had it in September and August, but it's every month that goes by, it gets a little harder to read. So I converted that to a pie chart so you could sort of see where the referrals are coming from, broke down in a visual way. September, we had some pretty diverse, very diverse group of, resources for referrals. October, it's a little less diverse, but I will say I'm still very happy that we have a large percentage of self-referrals, individuals who've heard about the program either through their community, through their friends, through other individuals that are enrolled, and then reach out to me or one of the navigators to refer themselves to the program. I love that. Then we had our largest source of referrals was other programs within the agency. We had 3 from Steuben County Community Services, 1 from the workplace, and 1 from CPS. Now, I didn't print it out here, but if you compare that to last year, our single largest source of referrals throughout PY19 was the Career Center. That's changed, and that's changed just because we don't have the foot traffic in the Career Center that we did last year. They are referring individuals when they show up. They're referring to individuals when they work with them, but we just don't have the volume of walk-ins that we did. And I think that's the explanation for the discrepancy there.
Keith, a question.
Yep.
The 3 referrals from community service in October, 1 in September, is that one individual, Steuben County Mental Health or Community Services? Is that one individual making those referrals, do you know, or is there a pattern?
Well, it's not one individual. I didn't break them down by names, but we have 3 people from Steuben County Services that are and are referring individuals to us.
Okay. In Bath or in Corning, do you know which offices they're working out of?
I believe that they're in Bath. I believe they're in the
Great.
Bath office.
Great.
Geez, right now I only remember one name. I don't know if that would do you any good if you're interested in that.
We'll talk later.
Sounds great. Sounds great. But yeah, that's relatively new and something I'm very happy about. Now we have somebody from mental health down here in Hornell. I don't know if that's where I am right now, who has been reaching out to me to refer individuals. Unfortunately, the people that she's been working with are all in-school youth. And so while we're opening a conversation, we're not really doing much more than that at this point with those individuals. Enrollments. For October, well, for September, we enrolled 7 new individuals. For October, we enrolled 5. I have added the entered follow-up up to June. I haven't entered it for July, August, and September yet. Rainey and I are working on a way to track that in a more concise way so that I can add those in real time. But we have, 56 that were active carried in from September, 5 new enrollments for 61 individuals. Work experiences, we have 3 new for the month of October. One of those is the plumber that I was talking about. One of those, unfortunately, was the individual who had to withdraw for health reasons. The other was the glass artist. That is my report. I am open for questions and comments.
It's great to see the diversity of the referral sources coming in.
Absolutely.
Moving right along.
Is it just me or?
No, it's not you, just you, Keith, I don't think. Is Judy still there?
Yes,
Yeah,
I'm still here.
I'm sorry.
Oh.
Go ahead.
So what I said was, we've just finished the youth program. Our next item on the agenda is individuals with disabilities, and it is the ADA accessibility standards and update.
Can we
So-
back up? I need a vote on I need motions for the youth. Sorry.
Oh, thank you. So yes, so I would entertain a motion to accept the youth program update.
I'll move.
This is Bill. I'll second.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Okay, we lost Judy again.
I will, I'll bet we can go ahead. She had already called. Did we do a vote yet?
Yep.
Okay, Judy's back.
This is proof of why we need broadband and cell service.
Absolutely.
So it's very. So I apologize. I guess I could walk outside, but I'm not sure it'd be any better. So the next report was the ADA accessibility standards update.
Okay, so at this time, there's nothing new to report. I think we reported out at our last meeting. Their website now is ADA compliant, and we have the machines in the Career Center, the ADA machines. But nothing new to report. Dan likes to keep this on the agenda as a standing item, so we don't let it just fall off. And so it's always there for months.
Right. Okay, thank you. Thank you.
If I can just if I can just add something to that, it goes back to Keith's report about the person who is reaching out to you for mental health. And I think you said they were all in-school youth. I still think this creates a great opportunity for a transition into the workforce development system. So I would be thinking of ways that we could keep those youth with mental health issues engaged, even if they're not eligible for particular service yet. I think that would really be helpful in terms of disability aspect.
Oh, I strongly agree. And those are active conversations.
I think Judy might have to hop off the call.
Those are active conversations, and we are strategizing a way to continue working with the individual who's referring those folks without actually enrolling the people at this time.
It may be because you have your phone, Jeanette, and your computer sound.
Muted myself.
Yeah. Yeah, and I
wondering-
muted again, and it kept happening.
I was wondering about Margaret. She's also got two open.
All right, sounds good.
Yep. There you go.
Maybe if everybody meets themselves or except when speaking.
Anybody not hearing a whining sound?
I can hear it loud and clear.
Very good. Okay. So I think what I heard you say, AJ, is that this is a great opportunity that we don't want to lose sight of to be able to transition our youth that are in the youth program from just sort of keep the youth that are coming through sort of the mental health entry point. Is that correct?
Yes, yes. I was saying even if they weren't eligible for a particular program at that point, keeping that connection open and those pathways, which Keith seems like he's doing, is just really would be really great for the center. It'd be really nice to see young people with mental health, substance abuse, people with disabilities feel comfortable, connected, and accessing the services. So yes.
That's great. So when we get to the performance measures, I think there's definitely some opportunities for us to improve on some numbers. If I got that right. I'm going to go back and look at my report. I read it very thoroughly. But I remember thinking that we had some great opportunities around the youth program in comparison to other workforce centers around the state. So moving along to operations, can we hear the operations report for October, please?
Yep. I'll bring this up for you, Shelley. Hold on a second.
Thank you.
Can everyone see that?
Okay, so what we have here is a report, and it goes from July through October to do a comparison with PY19 and PY20. The first portion here is customers served. And of course, and it's probably not a shock that the data here tells us that we're seeing fewer customers, most likely attributed or mostly attributed to the pandemic. And as Keith had mentioned, there's a lack of walk-in traffic and specifically the UI traffic in the centers, which has sharply decreased the overall number for PY19 or for PY20, excuse me. So we are serving, we're seeing the decrease overall of new customers in the center. The career centers are slowly reopening to foot traffic. We have walk-in hours in the Bath Center on Wednesdays and Fridays from 10:30 to 3:30. We have walk-in traffic to Elmira and Montour on Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 1:30 to 3:30. And of course, all centers all counselors in the centers are available by appointment as well. So our other programs are keenly aware that the counselors are located in the centers now. They're here Monday through Friday so that they can make referrals accordingly. And hopefully we can increase the traffic. At this point, with some of the uptick, we're not inclined to increase the hours for walk-ins at this point. We're finding that to make it manageable, because we have to limit it to 30-minute appointments, clean in between, that will, right now we see it's best to keep the hours that we have. But again, we can maybe stress the importance of, calling ahead and making appointments so we can plan accordingly. You also see there the new enrollments for in comparison for 20 to PY19. And again, we've enrolled 145 fewer customers at this point in 20 than we did in 2019. So we're continuing to, although we're seeing some customers, we're not doing many new enrollments. Here, you'll see that we have, as a result of those fewer customers, obviously we have fewer activities. So in comparison to last year, at this time, we have about 792 fewer activities with customers. So it's kind of that ripple effect. So moving forward, outreach and recruitment is going to play, a large role in the remaining months of the program year, so that we can meet our performance, meet the performance measures for 20. I'm currently meeting with the counselors to take a look at how we might be able to engage customers a little more effectively, and through virtual services, in addition to those appointments, bringing people into the center. And you'll see down here below, we did have a total of 114 activities, and 62% or 71 of those activities were provided by the counselors or the WIOA services, WIOA staff. And then there's just a snapshot here for October, the 3 centers. So all in all for October, given the situation, we did meet with, we did serve 73 customers. So not awful, not the best, but not awful. They continue to provide training services for training, OJT, customized, and ITAs. The ITA referrals we've had, although for October we did not present anyone for an ITA. September we did have 5 approved for ITA. What the counselors are finding, people have interest, they express interest, the packets are sent out. They're struggling with the follow through to register and do the next steps to engage in the training. So they will continue to work on that. Pursue customers. Obviously, if someone's not getting right back to them, they may not be the customers we want accessing funding. You'll see also here the workshop. That we've had workshops, the presented and the attendees, not the greatest results. We are currently working to revamp the workshop calendar. We've taken a step back rather than offer a full calendar of workshops, maybe 25, 30 workshops in the month. We have taken a look at those workshops that have been heavily attended in the past, or more heavily attended in the past. And one by one have made some edits to them, and we're reintroducing 5 of them in November, with hopes that we will have a more quality workshop, and with the result of more people attending. We also, if you see, there are some other areas there. If you look at appointments, so 29 customers were served through appointments in October, and then 27 were walk-ins. So we are seeing an increase in the walk-in traffic just recently in the last couple of weeks. They continue to field some phone calls for Department of Labor. They have lessened quite a bit, but they are still in existence. So they're still making those referrals via phone to UI customers and redirecting them. So in addition to revamping the workshop calendar, we have found through some of the phone calls there have been some increased need in services outside of the Career Center. The staff participated in a 211 training to kind of refresh themselves of the services that are out there, and how to direct people to those services. We are trying to be mindful of not only the events on our of workshops on our monthly calendar, but also working with the business service team to push or direct customers to the Meet the Employer events. The counselors have a printout each week of what there is offered through the calendar. And as they're engaging with customers and asking what else they can do for them, letting them know what we have to offer them, so that they also have that in the back of their mind and not just calling the 800 number to resolve a UI issue. So we'll continue those talks of how can we engage. I'm participating through the workplace in a managers group of other career centers in Connecticut, Massachusetts, Rhode Island, Virginia. So they're from different areas. Some of them are partially open, some are still fully opened. And Thursday we're having a little tomorrow actually, a little session on best practices, what they're using, and I'm hoping that we can maybe bring some ideas back here to the Chemung, Schuyler, Steuben area to engage customers into some activity. I think that's it.
A question, and this is both adult and youth. Are you finding transportation is a barrier for participation? Are you hearing that at all?
For us here in the Career Center, no, we've not heard of any transportation barriers. I'm located today here in the Bath Center. She's actually had 2 walk-ins today. So Elmira, we've not seen an issue with transportation. At this point, the Career Center in Hornell, the physical Career Center is still not open to public traffic. However, Carrie is available at the Hornell Library for appointment only. That would be the only area we've seen a decline in engagement. So we'll have some work to do there.
In terms of participation in a training opportunity or a work experience, that the reason they do it is because of transportation.
For the youth, that's a Texas-sized 10-4. Yes, we're having issues with transportation.
Yeah.
Both as individuals who want to go to trainings that are outside of their own town. You know, we've had some, and Phyllis can attest to this, we've had some astronomical requests for supportive services in the form of travel that you know, are just unrealistic. We've had individuals that have been put on pause for work experiences because they don't have transportation. As far as accessing, you know, services through their navigators, no, that's not an issue because we are still doing the bulk of our meetings with participants and navigators virtually. But trainings and work experiences, transportation is a challenge.
Well, I was thinking
on the adult side.
Are they aware of the mobility managers? Are the mobility managers either for one-on-one or to do some group training and opportunity?
Well, the navigators are aware of that. Unfortunately, for some of our participants, you know, bus schedules, things like that. If we're talking about an individual going from Hornell to Elmira for 3 days a week for a training, you know,
a mobility manager should be able to offer other options too, like ride sharing or, you know, they're pretty creative on a one-on-one basis.
I will emphasize that, and I will make sure that that's a conversation that happens.
Yeah, you may want to have just a general conversation with them about what they're doing right now, but I would think they're still pretty active.
Jeanette, you mentioned maybe an opportunity for a training. Would there be someone we could reach out to for our counselors, to youth and our career counselors to maybe have a little presentation? So I'm thinking that initially, so when training picks up, I see one of the difficulties being, because we are in this the pandemic time, the training offerings aren't plentiful. there are some there, they're not real plentiful, and some will start and then have to stop because they're shut down again. Some, BOCES has relocated some of theirs from Philo Road to the Cooper's campus because Cooper's campus can offer in-person instruction where the Philo Road can't. So we've seen some of that, but I think when we ramp up with more training, it would be great to have that little educational piece about the mobility managers and what they can do.
Yeah, I agree, both for staff and participants. Phyllis,
Mhm.
going to say something?
Yeah, so Lori Hayner in Chemung County is a mobility manager there, and she used to come in before we shut down and all, and on a regular basis she would do trainings with our PTE staff and like that. So she would be one that I'm sure would be open to coming in and doing a training. From the
Each
Chemung
county has their own mobility manager, and yeah, so any of them could do the presentation.
Yep.
That's great. Thank you, Jeanette. So you want to talk about the November 2020 workshop calendar, or is it just in there for information purposes?
Well, I didn't add it to the agenda. But what I can do is mail it out. As I mentioned, we've scaled back from 30 Oh, perfect. Thank you, Phyllis. From 30 workshops to 5. You will see others in there. So what also is in there are workshops that Carrie Ann Tribe-Philhart does with the populations that she works with, the ODES and the ESPRI programs. And so our workshops for this month are creating a resume, effective creation or effective cover letter, dress for success, career exploration, and creating your own personal brand. Those were the ones that we took a 3-month snapshot of, and they had the most heavy attendance. So what the group has done, I believe I mentioned before, we've taken each resume each workshop, critiqued it, sent it back to the creator of the workshop to make some edits. Because what we were finding, I think a lot of the workshops were put together real quickly so that we could begin offering them. And it was a great starting point. And now we're just springing off what we have and making them better and focusing on getting attendance in some of the core ones. And then we'll keep adding workshops as needed, and we'll continue to edit as needed for the various times that we may encounter throughout the calendar year.
Do the participants have to be enrolled in the system in order to participate in the workshops? And what I'm wondering is if the workshops could be done as workshops in other organizations. So, for example, in a school or in a, for the adults in a DSS program or something. And I realize I think we're talking virtual workshops. So I'm wondering if doing them that way might actually be using them as almost as a hook, and then be a way to get more referrals or to encourage folks to just, sign up for services.
So Phyllis, if you want to jump in, I mean, I think for us to get activity for our performance measures, we would need to have them enrolled, but I don't know that we couldn't offer them outside of here. Phyllis, what do you think?
Well, what we do is you do publicize the workshop calendar out in the community and to the different agencies and stuff. Mm-hmm. So there's a way that if, say, Catholic Charities has a few customers that they would like to attend a virtual workshop, they go to this email address and sign up for the workshop. And then they're registered in the system. What makes it helpful for individual when they're registered in the system, then they can get information on jobs that are open, because we're now taking each week a list of current jobs that have openings and sending it out to our customers in hopes of getting these jobs filled, but giving them some value from the system also. So there's benefits to them connecting to our system. And that's the way we do it. We put it out to the community agencies so they know at our workshops what's going on. We also have on our workshop calendar, Meet the Business activities, where we have a business, they'll do a virtual session. This replaced, we used to have businesses physically come into our career centers, and they would talk about working for their organization, what that was like, jobs they would have open. Now we do it virtually. And I think that offers the opportunity to open it up to more job seekers too, because we put all this stuff on our social media besides putting it out there in the community.
Right. Yeah, I'm only thinking that I know that we spread the calendar community-wide and hope that folks will see it and sign up and so forth. But if it's a targeted, specific presentation for, let's say DSS, they ask their enrollees or their participants, here's a workshop specifically for you, almost as one of their events, not one of yours, that it might, maybe a few more people will say, oh, okay, then I'll sign up for Workforce.
I see. Yep.
I'm a trainer by background, so I see the numbers and I think something's got to change.
Yeah.
Two participants for the month is not great. I know you guys are doing great stuff, but somehow it's not connecting.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's hard too. People look at the calendar, but they have no idea. I mean, you kind of know what it's about, but I think if you're sending it out to agencies and wanting them to distribute it, they need to have more information as far as, who or, when they're selling it to their participants to do this.
Mm-hmm.
You guys have all the knowledge, but if you asked me to explain any of these workshops, I would not be able to do it. And so, how do I, if I'm meeting with somebody, say, here's a really good, opportunity for you to, grow or learn something, or this may help you with something you're stuck on, or, all of those things. So I think, you guys know what you're doing, but I don't think we, and I mean the community at large, always know all the details. It's in the Career Center, which is great, but if you're trying to get somebody to the Career Center, which is what we're doing, it's difficult if you can't give them really good information.
Right.
That's a good point.
Thank you. So I'm assuming that we need to do a motion to accept the operator report?
Nope.
Nope. Excellent.
Nope.
Okay. Thank you. Okay, so our next item on the agenda is the Quality Assurance Performance Report.
You want to look at the performance indicators for PY19?
Yes, actually. I don't know if others had the opportunity to look at it before the call. I did want to go through that, and I apologize that I'm in a I'm in an area that is difficult to continue my connection. I think what I saw, and I'll just say this because others have looked at it as well, is that there's clearly areas that we have just excelled. That we're the best in the state, quite frankly. I thought that our employment rate, the adult performance measures were exceptional. The dislocated worker as well, I thought was very good. What I wanted to ask about is one, we're doing great things there, but the question I had was again, it's on the employment, education, or training placement rate for our youth. Looking at the page 5, I don't know if that's available to sort of bring up.
So I can, you want me to share my screen? Because I'm pretty familiar with navigating this.
Yeah, so that would be awesome if you could. Just
Okay.
there was a couple items from my perspective, and I'd love to get thoughts of others on the committee. From my perspective, if we're an outlier, either way above or way below, I think that as a committee that should grab our attention. If everyone's sort of operating in the same sort of standard deviation, I don't think it's a concern. But I do think we've done some really great things where we are number 1 or number 2 in the state, and then there are others where we're either at the bottom of the pack or we're close to it. So so if you bring that up, what I would say is that on page 3, for the employment rate for the adults, we were, in terms of the percent, we were right up there. And our numbers were, in terms of 80.5%, for the rate was excellent. And then if you go to, page 5, where we have the youth program, that one we were ranked at the bottom of the program. So the reason I bring this up is that the discussion we had earlier, where AJ talked about, is there a way to create a sorry about that. There's a way to create a stronger feeder pattern into our programs. The question is, would that help us with this particular measure? And then the other one that I had, again, these are just observations that I made, was when I was looking at the earnings. It's the same thing. I think that our goal, we did well on our goal and our percent of our goal, and so I thought that was great. And I thought that the employment, again, looking at fourth quarter, very well done, and our dislocated worker was really well done. But my question that I have, and maybe others can answer this, is that when we look at the youth program, looking at quarter 4, this is on page 9, and you take a look at Orange County, Putnam, Westchester, Ulster, Clinton, Essex, Franklin, Hamilton, which is also rural, and St. Louis. The question is, what are they doing that's effective, and is there something that they're doing that's special that we are not, or is there a way for us to find out what they're doing to have the rates that they have, or is it just an environmental? They happen to have a different kind of an environment. So I'm going to stop there and open it up for conversation.
Well, I do, in general, so WIOA started in July of 2015. They did not present the performance numbers until well past, probably up to almost the end. It was the beginning of 2018 when they pushed these reports out. So for the first couple of years with WIOA, people were really, they weren't even reported. So nobody really knew where they were in this situation. But from my point of view, we must hit 80% of our target, and we did not do that in the employment rate for youth second quarter. So it isn't, these are areas where I think the programs really need to, or all of us really need to say, we need to apply some real dedicated strategies so that we can have better outcomes for our participants. So Judy, you're suggesting, reaching out to these other ones that are have much better numbers. I think that's certainly doable. And that's what I've got to say about that.
Judy.
I think what's important to know is that it's not about, at least from my perspective, it's not that we're doing something wrong, but maybe somebody else is doing something different. It's not a right or wrong, it's just, is it different? And I look at the credential right attainment piece, and to your point, we have to hit 80%. That's our goal. Other thoughts? I mean, again, I don't know if others have looked at this, but I actually studied it. So, and the youth they're our future. So we really should be focused on them. Not that I don't want to focus on our adult, but they're our future.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I would just say I certainly, this is Keith, by the way, I certainly looked at it and, was made acutely aware of the places where my team and myself, we have to improve. And I would say that, one of the things that we're doing, I love the idea of reaching out to other youth programs and finding out what they're doing. I will shoot straight. That never even occurred to me. I just looked at inward and our processes and our practices, but I will definitely discuss with Phyllis the best way to start reaching out to other youth programs and discuss with Rayanne the best way to do that. But I would say internally, one of the things that might have contributed to this is we were on a very big push just to enroll people. Enroll. And I think we need to be, I know we need to be a lot more intentional about enrolling people with an eye towards these performance measures. Where are they going to be when we exit them? What are we exiting them to? We've always had that as a plan, but our focus has been on enrolling them and then finding out where they are and developing a plan with them. And I think that working with the navigators, working with Phyllis and Rayanne to develop strategies to just look at these performance measures at the outset and be conscious of where these young people are heading. I think that's going to lead to improvement. Another thing is to step up our follow-up program. I went through some of our follow-up stuff and our follow-up data, and we're not delivering follow-up services at the level that we should be, at the level that we're able to. And I think that maybe a change of mindset around what follow-up means, rather than taking somebody from being an active participant to a participant in follow-up, we need as a program to still consider them actively enrolled in the program and deliver follow-up services to keep them in line, to make sure that if they are employed, we're going to keep them employed, and if they're in a training program, that they're going to accomplish their goal.
Judy, this is Jamie. I also wonder, if some of this isn't on us as the committee and the board, because I remember when we set some of these goals a year ago, I personally thought they were extremely high, but we were doing it based on the amount of money that we had. And I think, we're always sort of reacting to, oh, gee, we got a lot of money this year, so let's bump up our goals. And I think as a board and a committee, we need to be very thoughtful in whether we can attain those goals or not. And I remember having that discussion a year ago about whether we could or not. And, there was some assurance on, everyone's part that we could, but I also think when you look at the performance indicators, it gets back to, how we're setting our goals and whether we can realistically meet those. So I think we need to be more thoughtful in the future about setting goals for staff that they can actually meet.
I would say too that I think it's very important to find out what other people are doing, but I also think, I was just in a meeting yesterday, and it was a mental health board meeting, and the director brought up about wanting employment opportunities for their clients. And of course, I put on my youth hat, and I'm thinking youth, WEO, and totally forgot the adult side. Sorry, Shelley. But, so I sent actually Keith and Laura an email today and said, can I give them your contact information? The program's been around forever, and these aren't new directors in the positions. So there's a disconnect between the people, the population that we're trying to reach, and workforce too. So at least in Schuyler, because they were like, oh, we didn't even realize, and these programs have been around, I've been here 20 years, so they've been here longer before me. So it just, priorities shift and people, change their focus as to what they want to do, but somehow we need to do a better job of trying to find those populations or people organizations that are serving those populations, and make sure that the people that need to know the information have it, and then how you sustain that, because people do change, and you may get one really good therapist or somebody who's making all these connections, and then they leave or something happens, and that connection's gone, and then it's like starting all over again. And we run into this all the time, it seems like, at least in Schuyler. I don't know about the rest of the 2 counties, how that works for them, but I was stunned when they were like, well, we're looking for employment opportunities.
And if I can just add that in terms of strategies for the follow-up for employment, I don't know if we're using kind of state-of-the-art mobile apps, checking in with someone every 2 weeks. How's your job going? Rated on a scale of 1 to 5, or very simple things that help keep connected. And then I was part of a very successful program many years ago that gave employment retention incentives, and they weren't big. And this was for a DSS population, but for youth in general, I don't know if you're prohibited or we could look for other money to do this, but a $10 gas card or a free bus pass or something that's just helpful, employment related, and an incentive will sometimes help to keep people connected longer too.
I also think that, we're working with some of the hardest people, or you all are working with some of the hardest people to keep engaged. I mean, that's their kind of MO. They start out and stop and start out and stop. So that critical piece is really also figuring out how to engage them, making that relationship. You're the person that I'm going to contact with this. And I know we had run a small WEOA program. This was quite a few years ago. But we were pretty successful at keeping kids engaged and meeting those benchmarks that needed to be met. And I have to give all the kudos to the counselors, because they were constantly trying to contact, and those kids they were calling them with all kinds of things like, I have trouble with this, I have trouble with that. They all turn into barriers of them not being able to stay employed, because the first thing they do is don't call off and go down this path, and you need to stop them before, or try to intervene before they get so far down the path that it's a ruined mess.
Good. That's good. Other thoughts? Thank you. The next, a couple other items that we had just was the,
We lost her. She'll be back.
Yeah.
She's back.
Okay.
Yeah, Judy, you were saying.
what I was saying was thank you for that. And I was just reaching out to see if there was anything else, anyone else wanted to, sort of wanted to add to the conversation. Because I do think, Jamie, I think your point about us setting our measures maybe a little high, I think does give us an opportunity to sort of look at that, going forward. But I also think that, learning from the other workforce agencies that are throughout the state that are doing really well on their youth side, I think never hurts us. So, so I appreciate that. Any other input from anyone on the committee on the topic of these performance measures? Okay. So the next time on the agenda is our operator RFP. And again, this was sent to you. We don't, we have some time. We have several months before us. But I do think it's important. I will ask, I wish Dan was on the call, but Phyllis, when I opened it up, it looked like it might have been from Chautauqua, perhaps. It opens in my Adobe as a Chautauqua document,
okay.
which is fine. That's fine.
Uh-huh.
I just wanted to, find out from you, Phyllis, what specifically, when you're looking at this and you want us to sort of focus on very specific areas, do you and Dan and staff have some direction that you would like us to focus on, or would you like us as a committee to sort of look at this thing freshly and look at it without staff input for our initial look?
I'm going to make an assumption here, and I think probably Dan would want like a fresh look at it before, so you can be a little objective. Take a look at it first before there's any staff input. I know he wants, at some point, he thought it would be helpful bringing staff in for their input. But you do need to have the correct RFP to look at, so.
Yeah, so just so you know, it is our RFP. It's just that when it went in Adobe, the title came up as Chautauqua, but it is our RFP.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah. So not to worry from that perspective. So I think we have a couple ways to go at this. One is that we could potentially divide the work up and sort of take sections, or we can, I can ask you to sort of, as a committee, maybe individually, take a look at the, starting with the indicators of performance, since that's some of the things that we've been talking about, is to sort of look at those items within the, like, I don't think you need to look at the bidding process. I mean, that's already set, I believe, from the state perspective. But I think those items in here that we have direct control over. So it could be the performance objectives, and then so that's page 15. So if we were to look at And I would just say sort of focus on page 7 to 15. That seems to be sort of the meat of the RFP. And again, we're not under a tight time frame right now. This doesn't have to be let. If we're following the same timing, we wouldn't issue this until mid-year, probably May or June of next year. And again, I'm sure Dan would provide a little more definition. So I think what I'm going to ask the committee to do is just provide me right now with, would you prefer to just sort of look at those pages, and then have a separate meeting where we just talk specifically about the RFP, or would you like to go through it and assign or volunteer for different sections to sort of look at?
I think going through it as a committee, because then, you know, different people's perspectives will be able to be heard.
When it gets quiet, then I think that my system is hung up.
Oh, she's gone.
Then yes, it definitely was hung up.
Mhm.
But I agree with you, Jeanette.
Yeah, so do I, Jeanette. I think to go through it as a committee, and then if we think there's certain areas that we want to focus on, actually maybe having a smaller group work on certain, divide the areas up.
Yeah.
Thank you. That is it. Thank you. This is the most awkward way to do a meeting I've ever had in my life. Just on record saying that for you.
But you did it.
Yeah, it's working. We're almost through it. So, but what I missed was sort of what the feeling was from the committee. Whether we want to just have a separate meeting, or we want to divide it up. Margaret, I'm going to pick on you. Assuming you're still on the call. Or Bruce, two of our new folks.
I think we should.
Your pleasure.
We prefer to look at the entire document as a committee, and then if there are parts that we need to split off, have smaller groups or individuals take a look at it.
Okay, that was hard to hear, Margaret.
It was. I couldn't understand it.
I think Margaret was echoing that we preferred to hop on and look at it collectively. I mean, we're talking like 8 pages of content. So it sounded like that was the preference, that we would set up a separate call and review that together and then separate it out if need be from there.
Good.
Yes.
Is that good with Bruce? Other folks that are new to this, does that sound okay?
Bruce had to step off, so Bruce is no longer on with us.
Okay. All right. Well, I think that's what we should do. So if that's okay with everyone, that is how we'll proceed. The good news is, again, we're not under a tight time frame, so this isn't something we have to hurry up and rush. We can do a good job, a thorough job, and so that works for me. So I'm going to ask, I'll talk to Dan, hopefully, or Phyllis, you can get back to Dan, and we'll schedule a time that works for all of us, and we will focus on those 7 pages and go from there. All right?
Okay. Yep.
That'd be great.
Perfect. Okay. Anything else for the good of the committee?
Rayanne, did you have, were you done with your stuff?
I was really just going to update, and I can make it really quick. I did a career center monitoring. There were no findings. What I added to my review was I compared the New York State Department of Health reopening plan template and compared it with our career centers, and we were in line with all of the items from the state template. So that was very good. I did issue monitoring letters for both youth and adult. In September, I will not present them yet because both programs have asked for an extension to apply a response. So I will present those next month after I get the response. And that's all I've got.
Great.
All right. So And Rayanne, I appreciate you putting the report in the board, in the committee documents of your, for the monitoring. So I appreciate that. So any questions for Rayanne?
No.
All right, then I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Thank you, Jeanette. Second?
Joanne, second.
Thank you, Joanne. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Hi, thank you. Thank you very, very much, everyone. I really appreciate your patience on this. I promise you the next time I will not be in the middle of a no cell service zone. So, but I'm in Schuyler County, so that's what we have. I still love it. It just makes it a little more difficult. So, all right. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Yeah. Bye.
Bye.